Ukraine has confirmed that they've seized the key Russian town of Sudzha. But are Russian forces continuing to surrender even as Putin throws more into the meat grinder? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. Okay, so first off, biggest announcement probably is that President Zelensky has confirmed that Ukrainian forces have seized the entirety of the town of Sudzha. They've controlled the majority of it for several days, and generally it seems like Ukraine, in an effort to preserve their operational security, is not confirming gains until several hours or days after they've been secured. Part of this is just to ensure that they don't make an announcement and then Russian forces counterattack, right? So they want it to be secured, but also probably to make sure that Russian forces, the fog of war is as thick as possible for Russian command. So the fact that he's announced it means that likely Ukrainian forces are already well past this point. Key aspects of Sudzha are, first off, the gas metering station. This is something that essentially flows Russian gas into Europe, and it's one of those things that actually has been preserved throughout the war, despite the fact that the pipeline essentially runs more or less through this yellow roadway here, H07, and it's because Russia makes money, sure, but Ukraine also makes money by receiving transfer fees. And of course, Europe wants to ensure a continual flow of gas as they try to combat inflation. So the fact that Ukraine now owns this gas metering plant means that, Ukraine always has the option to shut off the pipeline, so to speak. And so that will likely, that increases the chances that will happen. I think it's also possible, Ukraine has said at the end of this year, they're going to stop operating this pipeline, which is going to put the squeeze on European inflation, but it's also going to hit Russia where it hurts in their pocketbooks, right? Of course, Sudzha also a key rail hub, so a number of rail lines that resupply Russian troops in Kharkiv, as well as other Russian troops fighting throughout this kind of border area, are supplied via rail through Sudzha. So seizing that is going to make Russian logistics just a little bit tougher. But more important is that Ukraine, well, there's lots more important activity that's happened on the front line. There's also been some confirmation that Ukraine has actually seized other towns like this town here, whose name I cannot pronounce because it's in Cyrillic, and that they've crept ever closer, now fighting on the outskirts of Koronivo. So this is, again, what you're seeing Ukrainian forces take a much slower pace as Russian forces bring in reinforcements, but it still is a really substantial Ukrainian gains, especially compared to the Russian operational tempo. Now, before we talk about that, right, and I wanted to talk about the problem Russia's having keeping troops on the battlefield here. But of course, if you feel like you're having a hard time keeping yourself focused enough to get your own personal battles done, you may want to check out some Strike Gum. Strike Gum is the energy drink alternative, 90 milligrams of caffeine in every piece, plus 100 milligrams of alpha GPC and 0 sugar, right? Now, you guys know that it's back to school season, but Strike Gum isn't for kids. I want to make that clear. Don't give it to your kids. I'm not a Paul brother, all right? I'm not going to sell your kids something that's a little too intense for small humans, right? This thing contains a Red Bull's worth of caffeine, okay? So it's for adults. But guess what? Back to school sucks for adults too. I don't know what else to tell you. Everybody's traffic gets worse. If you got to get your kids to school, that sucks, right? You need some energy. You need to focus, right? You can't be stopping at the gas station and spending $5 on a Red Bull. So we've got a back to school sale. If you pick up 2 or more of the 5-packs, free shipping anywhere. So check it out. The promo code is going to be StrikeBTS. So you go to strikegum.com, you pick up 2 or more of these 5-packs, and you enter promo code StrikeBTS and get your free shipping. So if you've been waiting, right? If you're somebody who's like, I was thinking about getting a tray, guys, it's literally going to be cheaper for you to get 3 5-packs and get the free shipping, like significantly less expensive. So a huge savings for you guys. And again, a huge thank you to everybody that's ordered it. And boy, good luck, parents, going back to school. My kid's not old enough to go to school, so she doesn't have to go back. It's great. All right, let's talk about reinforcements. Russia's trying to reinforce this battlefield. And don't get me wrong, they appear to be somewhat succeeding, right? Russia, per the U.S. intelligence community, they've said Russia's partially deploying its own forces to Kursk, partially though, right? So it's pulling some of its forces from somewhere, likely the Donetsk or Tourette's directions, to reinforce the existing Russian defenses in Kursk Oblast. But there's a problem. And the problem, well, it's those conscripts, right? Now, you guys know that Russian active duty forces, I wouldn't say they want to be there, but Russia's willing to use things like blocking battalions. And frankly, they're willing to recruit desperate convicts. And of course, they'll inflict brutal punishments on soldiers that don't comply. Conscripts are a different story, though. They are still involved in a lot of this fighting, and a lot of them, per Russian law, were not allowed to be deployed outside of Russian sovereign territory, which means, of course, that they can't go to Ukraine, but they can go to Kursk Oblast. And here is a picture of some captured Russian conscripts. This is from Operator Starsky, who we know is a member of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, and he's reporting that these kids, look at these kids. These are some of the captured Russian conscripts. They look like they are just turned 18. Okay? This is just sort of sad, honestly. And I say this as someone who deployed with 18, 19-year-olds, right, in my platoon. But the difference is, one, those 18, 19-year-olds, they received, 6 months of training plus all the pre-deployment training. So they were in way better shape, way more confident, and just not looking like those guys. So it makes sense then that Ukrainian forces are reporting that actually the largest single surrender of the entire war has went down yesterday. Ukrainian forces capturing over 100 Russian troops, largest single surrender event since the start of the war. And again, 100 Russian troops, particularly conscripts, because they're seen as being kind of the everyman, right? Hitting the Russian public where it hurts. Those conscripts are definitely going to get exchanged for Ukrainian soldiers held by Russia, right? And this, of course, is a sign of just the low morale. Because think about it, guys. This is like the equivalent. Think of it like this. If you're the Russian military, fighting in Afghanistan, right, is like fighting in Ukraine. Obviously, it's way worse, but the idea is that it's someone else's country, right? Fighting in Kursk is like defending Oregon, right? It's like defending Arizona from invasion, okay? It's American soil. And these fighters, these soldiers, are surrendering in mass to someone invading Russian territory. That should tell you, right? The key difference is that the Putin and the people in the Kremlin, they don't give a shit about the Russian people. Obviously, they gave a shit. They wouldn't have killed, almost 200,000 of them in this war. Remember, one in every 100 Russian men have been killed or wounded in Ukraine. So these kids, these conscripts, they know this. They're not stupid. They know they're being forced by law, sent to be killed by Ukrainians for Putin and his Kremlin lackeys, who are just squeezing Russia for everything it's worth, right? And again, when the cost of living is higher than ever, it's harder than ever in Russia, right? Social services, missing payments, underpaying people. And then to sit there and go, oh, by the way, we want you to go fight and die in this war that we started. Oh, and you have no way to replace the leadership. If you don't like the way the war's going, there is no election. Putin will win every time. And so it's no surprise that you're seeing Russian soldiers just surrender by the hundreds. And again, for Ukrainian forces, it's good news because it means hundreds of their people will get to come home. Anyway, guys, please subscribe to the channel. That makes a huge difference. It's free, but it also tells the YouTube algorithm that I am one of the creators putting out real information. I'm not some Russian shill. Thanks to our Colonel tier members on combatvetnews.com, particularly James Gerling, Steve Moran, Doug Beck, Alan Knudsen, Bastian Himmerling, Yanko Georgiev, Dale McCombs, as well as some other new names on here: Sergei Zenchenko, Franz Zacharias, and AN90. Thank you guys. I appreciate your support. I think Stuart Abel, I think you're new too. And Chris Rossi, oh, that's new. Okay, thank you guys. And thank you to all the Lieutenant tier members. I couldn't do this without you guys. You guys are the ones who make this whole thing possible. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the recent videos on combatvetnews.com, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.